Welcome to the Brickworks Podcast, an extension of the studio based here in Burnham-on-sea. Our aim for this podcast is to have a completely open forum for conversation. This could be about art, life, mental health, or even how the world is burning down around us right now. Whether you're listening to this whilst on a run or relaxing at home, we hope you enjoy our mild-mannered rambles. Thank you. So guys, I just wanted to quickly jump in before the podcast started and just say a little bit of a trigger warning. Some of the stuff that me and Owen discuss in this podcast is quite heavy, and I just wanted to let you guys know. No, it's weird though, isn't it? Like how we associate ourselves with like what we wear in a way. Like we sort of build up this sort of understanding of how we dress and how we associate ourselves with that. It's like,
but it's like I look at myself and I'm like, I'm going to wear the same stuff every day. Yeah. The OB Detailing brand. And then I go and put a normal t-shirt on. I'm like, whoa, this feels weird. And also the fact that I now tuck my t-shirt in all the time. Mainly so I don't show my ass crack off when I'm bending over doing a car. Yeah, good. But even when I'm not now, it just feels normal and comfortable.
Honestly, it's so weird you say that because I've done exactly the same thing. Like, I started tucking in my t-shirt when I was like, I don't know, about when I was living in Cheltenham. It's like a style thing. I just started like really getting into like men's fashion and noticed like a lot of people were tucking their shirts in. I was like, oh, I'll try it, see if it suits me. The first time I did it, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Tucking my shirt in. And now I do it with every t-shirt, turtlenecks. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's interesting you say it from a practical perspective, whereas for me it's like, actually it makes me look slimmer, so I'll rock it.
Yeah, that's it. So between when we went into lockdown, I'm going to touch on this later, but I went and got a job at Tesco's. I did night shifts at Tesco's. Yeah. And I all of a sudden just started shedding weight because I left the pub.
Oh, yeah, true.
I'm not walking into the kitchen. Yeah. The chips are on the hot plate.
Yeah.
I'm not taking 2-3 chips every time I walk in there.
Yeah.
You know, you're turning into 60-70 chips a night.
Yeah. Well, you're talking like 2 full plates.
2.5 stone I lost over the first lockdown. Just from not eating crap. Didn't change anything else about me.
That's so interesting. That it was just a case of like not having it there.
Yeah, not picking.
It's weird though, because I think we as like human beings naturally like, I don't know if the people watching or listening to this podcast can hear, but it sounds like somebody's having a fucking street fight outside. Did somebody turn like the Nintendo 64 on or something? Yeah. Like, it sounds like they're going crazy. But no, it's weird because like we naturally like, because I heard this on another podcast actually about like being hunter-gatherers. Like naturally as us as humans, we want to hunt and gather food for our families or whatever, but also we naturally just eat. We have an association with food now, especially because food is so common and so easily obtainable. I.e. yourself, when you're working at the pub, the chips were just there. It's almost natural to just like take one or two, and it's like breaking that habit or coming out of that situation can actually be quite difficult. Because like I used to work at what was the garage name? It was down on the Barrow Road, Texaco, before it all got changed. And they used to, I just remembered. They used to have these really cheap flapjacks, you know, like flapjacks that are just sugar. There isn't actually really any
hard, they're not buttery.
Like the ends are rock hard, but the middle is so gooey because the sugar never actually melted properly. I'd eat like one of those every shift, man. It was not good, but it was because it was there, and like breaking that habit was like the hardest thing. And it's weird that you say that because it's like, by you not being in that, being able to do that, you just didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You don't think about it. And also like I used to do Sunday night shifts, and Sunday night shifts are always the boring ones. So me and my friend Jenna, we would always be doing the Sunday nights, and we call them Sunday fun days. And we get to about 8 o'clock at night, and the kitchen would then close, and the kitchen staff would then go, and it's like, well, what do we do? we got a few drinkers, you know, you don't want to be left on your own. I should have really been sending her home to save money, but I never did. I hope that Gail doesn't watch this. But so we'd be like, I was like, do you want some ice cream? And we'd go, we obviously pay for it.
Yeah.
We put the ice cream through the till. I'd go out the back. But her bowl would be like 2 scoops.
Yeah.
My bowl would be like 6 scoops. It would be costing me an absolute fortune in ice cream. But there was just nothing else to do. I'd do my beer orders. She would then have her bowl. I'd have my bowl. And it's just like, well, the fact that now I don't have easy access to food when I'm out and about. I do at the moment because I went to the Highbridge bargain place yesterday and bought a load of crap. But normally I was like nothing in the van. So, and I'm out. I normally start at 8 on a weekday and I'm out till 8, 9 o'clock normally. At the moment, I'm not really staying out as late because I don't want to.
The beautiful thing of being your own business.
Controlling and I just went and booked a new tattoo in and it felt really good. He was like, oh, when do you want to book it for? He's like, can you do the 3rd? I'm like, do whatever day I want. I'm self-employed. Because I booked it in March after the next time I give blood. So that in itself felt really weird because it's the first time that I've booked something in since being self-employed where I could literally just go whenever. Do it whenever suits you. I'll just take that day off and work another day.
It's weird, isn't it? Because like, I don't know if you... it feels similar to when you finish school.
Yeah.
Like when you finish school, you've got so used to that Monday to Friday, you're in school, and then suddenly it's like, shit, I can go and get Chinese on a Tuesday at lunchtime if I want. There's nothing stopping me. No. It's the same feeling. Like when I... like, because I've been in and out of employment, like, you know, working for garages or whatever. Like I worked at Breen Leisure Park 2 years ago. Mate, honestly, the worst, best job I've ever done. Like, it was terrible, but I loved every fucking minute of it because the people I worked with were hilarious and didn't really care.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the thing. It's
hopefully Breen Leisure Park don't watch this or Breen Unity.
Basically, any previous employees of us
turn
don't
off.
Watch.
Yeah, just turn off straight away.
It's gonna be funny when my dad watches this. He's my own employer.
He's gonna be like, "You did what?" Like, but it's it's weird, isn't it? Because like, I remember because I sort of started being a full-time artist sort of when I went off to do my masters was when I sort of really started focusing on being an artist. And that's when it was kind of the moment where I was like, oh yeah, I can do what I want when I want. And now I'm still in that stage and it still is a bit weird. Yeah. And it's still like, oh yeah, I can do this when I want. And it's like, there's nothing actually tying me down. Well, apart from the studio, there's nothing actually tying me down. It's such a weird feeling. Yeah,
it's like, although in the back of your head, you're like, well, if I'm not working, I'm not earning. Because it is for me, like I don't have another income coming in. So
yeah, totally.
When I finish that job on that day, I get paid for that day's work.
Yeah.
So I used to every year I'd always work New Year's Eve and I'd always work New Year's Day. And then I'd have the 2nd to the 12th off, and that's 10 days just for my birthday. I'd go away skiing. I'd just take time for myself. I went up to see my ex-girlfriend last year when we were together, and knowing in the back of my head, I'm still getting that paycheck. Whereas now I'm like, I'm taking 3 days off. That is minimum. I do not want to take any more.
Yeah. Well, that's the strange thing though, isn't it? It's like, I think that's the thing that people always struggle with self-employment is that you don't have a safety net.
No.
The safety net is fucking out the window and down the road. Like, if it goes wrong, it's on you.
Unless you're sensible with money.
Yeah, not me.
Which I wasn't until about 18 months ago. Now my ex called Molly, and I'll reference her a lot. So we're just going to call her Molly because that's her name. She was a massive help, and I don't have a bad word to say about her, and I won't let anyone have a bad word to say about her.
That's good,
she is still my best friend. It is recent we broke up, but the understanding's there is we're in different parts of our life.
Yeah,
she's still at university doing her placement year.
Yeah.
I'm self-employed doing my own thing and don't have that much time, and it was her decision, it wasn't mine. If it was mine, we'd still be together. But without her, my financial situation would be the complete opposite. So as of this month, I have paid off all my debts.
Congrats.
At the beginning of this year, I had $9,000 of debt.
Don't worry, you're talking to a student with 50 odd, so
yeah,
I feel the pain.
But yours is relative. You got something out of it. Mine was buying crap.
Oh, yeah. I got a friend like that as well. Yeah.
When I got furloughed from the pub. Obviously, I then got my furlough pay, but they laid us off the day before they announced the furlough pay. So we all left like, we're not going to get any money because we didn't know about the furlough scheme yet. So I literally got a phone call. Well, I didn't even get a phone call. This is how unprofessional they were. I got a Snapchat from my boss telling me not to come to work today because we're closing the pub. So within an hour of that happening, I had applied for a job at Tesco's, and within 24 hours, I had a job interview. I got the job. It was only a temporary job. It was night shifts, the most dullest thing in the world, and I probably will not do it again. But I've met an incredible person who will potentially be my employee.
Cool.
But that's something to touch on later. So with then doing that, I then got paid from that. I then got paid my furlough pay. Yeah. So we're talking a good like nearly $2,000 coming in. Okay, I've still got bills to pay. I've still got this and that, and I still wanted to buy myself nice things. But a lot of it went on to paying off my debt. And by the end of May, I was at $2,000 left to pay off.
That's incredible.
Then I got made redundant.
Good times.
So I got my last paycheck from the Fox and Goose in August. But prior to this, knowing that I was getting made redundant a month before, I had a month's notice. The decision was made to take OB detailing full time. So there was a lot of investment that had to be taken into it. Of course, I had the basis there. It's been a part-time job since 2017. Yeah. Running out the back of my Golf. So I had, the jet wash,
had bits of equipment
that I needed to get me by. And then it was, right, how am I going to take this full time? So I'm going to need a van. Yeah. That's going to cost a lot of money. Now it's on lease, but I don't have to worry about the running costs. Yeah. A water tank, a generator, and then just the wood to line it all, to make it all professional, the sign writing, everything like that. Yeah. So now we're talking that my debt's back up to about $7,000 once I've bought everything I need. I then work my ass off, and like I said earlier, I've paid all my debt off as of this month. That's so sick. Yeah. Now I do say what I earn, and I'm very passionate for what I earn, but I work hard, and I know that, and you get out what you give. And now I know that some people it seems like gloating, but when you're talking to people with the same mindset to achieve, to win at life, to make success. And when you're talking about success to somebody who's employed, who's also making success or wants to make success, you have this bond with them that is different to me talking to someone who's on benefits. Yeah, totally. Because they don't have the drive. I know I'm stereotyping it, and it shouldn't be, but a lot of people get comfortable with that, is what I'm trying to say. So when they see me and I'm taking in £1,000 a week, sometimes more if I'm lucky and I've worked hard enough, then they will see that as, he's just showing off what he's got. And it's not a case of that. I'm proud to say that I've paid off all my debt. Well, you should be, man. Like that's a fucking big thing to be proud of. You know what I mean? Especially at your 25 next month. 25 next month. Yeah. Happy birthday for next month. Thank you. To be debt free already and running your own business. Yeah, fuck yeah, that's something to be proud about. It's not gloating by any means. What would be gloating is if you were walking down the street and throwing money. Yeah. That's gloating. And that's the thing that it does frustrate me a little bit when people get annoyed at other people's success. Yeah. You shouldn't be getting annoyed at other people's success. You should be getting inspired by it. Exactly. Oh. My one of our sponsors, Steve, just dropped some arrows through. Shout out, Steve.
I'll have to text him later.
You'll be editing this like next week going, I was meant to text him.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he probably did, but because we're like, because we're podcasting, it's like, I just wondered what that was coming through the letterbox.
I thought it was dogs. Like,
yeah, I thought it was as well. I was like, so what the fuck is that? It's actually orange arrows. If you can't see it on the podcast, but you'll see it for the exhibition on the 19th. Get your tickets. Shout out. Anyways.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
I've got mine.
Owen will be here. Yeah, I think that's the thing is like, it's very easy to put success as monetary value.
Yeah.
Like, so, and for me, it's something that I've always fought with in my own mind, not in society, but in my own mind, because I'm lucky enough to come from, a background, that it's a middle class family that I'm in, middle to working class. Like, there has been times that we've struggled, including myself in that as a family. But we've never been on the breadline, as far as I'm aware, unless my parents are good at hiding it. And I've been in financial problems as well. But you've got to be in those places sometimes. So like talking about yourself working at the Fox & Gooch, your previous employment, bar Tesco's. Whilst doing OBD detailing at the same time, there was probably a drive to do more detailing because you didn't want to necessarily be in that environment working. You might have enjoyed it in some way.
Oh yeah, so I've always been in the hospitality.
Yeah, for sure.
My mum has trained as a chef, and she was in hospitality for years. My dad's in the wedding industry, doing exactly the same. But that's where I started. I went and did weddings. I was a waiter for 8 years for Strawberry Fields. And then I got fed up with the late nights, the long days, and also the fact that I didn't have a regular income. It was always a part-time thing. Okay, I was some months obviously busier in the summer than in the winter, but I'd do 260 hours in August, and then in like November it'd be like maybe 100. Yeah. Okay, it's still a good, when you're 15, 16, 17, that's great.
Oh, mate, that's good money at that age, you know what I mean? It's good experience
and
as well.
I've always been someone that's saved. I've always wanted to buy myself nice things. So when I was 14, I bought myself an Apple Mac with the money that I earned. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I was pot washing and doing a few waiting shifts. But I saved up, what was it, £1,000 for a MacBook? Well, minimum. I had an iMac, so an actual Mac.
Oh yeah, easy.
Didn't even have the laptop.
£1,000 then.
Yeah, so I saved all that money from working, and then everyone at school was like, "Oh, well, your parents buy you that." And it's the same when I had my first car. I didn't buy myself a crappy car. I bought myself an 11-plate Polo, which when you're 17, how old am I now? Was that 7 years ago? Yeah. 7 years ago, an 11-plate car was relatively new. You didn't buy those for a first car. Whereas now an 11-plate car is what you buy for a first car. Yeah. Which is really weird and strange. And when you think about that, you're like, oh my God.
Mate, mine's a 2007. And I'm like,
Need to upgrade.
Yeah, it's like, probably about time.
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree. And I think that's the thing is like, we all have different goals.
Yeah.
We all have different aspirations, whether it's financial wealth, physical growth, whatever it is. We all have different aspirations. And sometimes people will see your aspiration as, something that they want to obtain, but don't know how. And it really pisses me off when people turn that into jealousy or turn it into anger towards somebody else, because why not just talk to them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why not just have a conversation? And for me personally, I've dealt with, people who have been close to me in the past, who now, for some reason, dislike me. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that is. And dealing with that can be quite difficult. And I'm not saying that's the situation you're in or anything like that. But the thing that I've learned from those situations or being in that predicament is that sometimes you just have to focus on you. Yeah. Like sometimes you have to go, okay, this is going on, but right now my focus needs to be on this, me, what I'm doing. And I think by the sounds of things, yourself is going through that, or you've in that situation where you've now transitioned to being full-time self-employed. It's like, fuck man, there's no more focus that needs to be on something than that. Like, you're doing something you enjoy, and it's not gloating to be talking about it in a, I feel like I've done well. What it is pride. It's pride in yourself that you've got yourself into this position because you've worked hard. You've, as we've said before we were podcasting, you grafted to get to that point. You know, that's something to be fucking proud of. Like,
I have someone I went to school with. I haven't spoken to them since I left school 8 years ago. And they've set up a small independent business selling wax melts.
Cool.
So they messaged me and I was like, right, how much are they? You know, all this. And then she sent me through the price list and I was like, you can't be making money on that. So I will always help people who need help. Like, I don't have a business mind, but I understand business because you have to, because you run one. I didn't go to sit form and study. I didn't go to university to study it. I've literally learned as I've gone along. And I was in her situation where I was underpriced everything, and you go, well, actually no, the quality of the product you're delivering, whether that being her wax melts or whether it being the finished result of my cars that I'm doing, you need to price it what you're producing.
Totally.
So we did a number of nights where I was there. We were Snapchatting each other, going through her pricing, finding out how much things are costing. And we've done a whole new pricing list for her where she's actually
making a profit.
Rather than making 10 pence profit, she's making 80% profit, which is where you need to be. And I was going to invest, but something's happened where she doesn't need my investment, which is great. Yeah,
that's fantastic to be in that situation.
To be in that situation that she doesn't need my investment, absolutely, that's fine. I will always... Okay, there's a benefit for me to invest because she will get my support and
vice versa. Yeah.
But she doesn't need it. So
I think that's the thing is like, you know, especially as a startup, it's so easy, whether it's car detailing or photography, it's really easy to underprice yourself and undervalue yourself because that's what you're doing. And it's been... You know, it's interesting that you sort of say that with your friend making the wax melts. Also, give me those details because that sounds like a sick Christmas present, you know.
It's just some good gifts. Although you should have got the prices before.
I was going to say, I should have got the discount. No, I'm joking. But that's the thing is like, it's really easy to do that. Especially a friend of mine, who will remain nameless for now, she sort of said about, it's really easy to underprice yourself in a small town.
Yes.
Because you feel like you shouldn't be charging X amount. You know, for example, my hourly rate as a photographer is like 40 something pounds. I don't have the exact figures. I should really know that.
Yeah.
I have a piece of paper that I give people. It's easier.
I've got two figures of an hourly rate. I've got my valeting hourly rate and I've got my detailing hourly rate.
Yeah. I think that's something that I need to probably do because, like, obviously with this place, I'm not just working as a photographer now. You know, when people come to me and ask for like portfolio reviews and stuff like that, I should really have an hourly rate for that. But anyways, in like the last sort of year and a half, I've always struggled with this idea of like people buying into what I make. As an artist, it's really weird that I still find it really weird now that somebody wants to buy something that is a piece of me because previous discussions I've had with other people, as an artist, there is a piece of you in that artwork. Absolutely. Whatever it is. And it's really strange that people want to buy into that as a concept from my perspective. And it's only now that I've started to realise the value of myself in my artwork and my time and what it takes for me to make. So I recently did a commission for Seed, which is Sedgemoor Council's art department. And it was a great commission, don't get me wrong, but it didn't take a lot of my time to make the images that they wanted and go produce it. But the pay was what I charge. And I remember having the phone call with her. And this is where my two sides of my brain have been like fighting simultaneously for years now. I remember the phone call with the lady that commissioned me and talking about what is going on outside the studio right now. Maybe 4:30 on a Friday is not the time to be podcasting. But anyways, I remember having the conversation with her and she was like, oh, so how much do you charge? Like, what's your day rate? And because I wanted to do the commission, I almost said, oh, I'll do it for X amount, which would be way less than what my actual figure was. And I stopped, and I had a little moment in my brain for like a split second. I said, no, this is like a little battle of like, oh, do less because it's a good commission, you need it, etc., etc. And then the other side of my brain was like, fuck that, like, you work hard, you should be getting paid what you work for, like, you put yourself in these positions. And I was like, yeah, I agree with that side of my brain. And then I went off and did the commission. They paid me what my rate was. And it's really easy to undervalue that. It's really easy, especially when you're first starting out. I know I've been doing this 10 years and I'm still having this battle. We
were talking about the E-types earlier.
And
the fact that I had no control of how much I could charge because there was already an agreement in place, the previous detailer who was meant to do it. So the fact that I undercharged by, the loss, there should have been £450 a car, and I charged £500 for both. Like, not what I should have been doing, but the fact that now he knows the fact that he had a cracking deal on his half. But he wants me to do his Ferrari Dino in the new year.
Jesus, that's a nice car.
And he knows that there will be a price increase because the work that he's now seen me produce,
he knows the value.
Yeah.
So you know the value in yourself. Like, that's the thing, is learning that bit. And it sounds like your friend who makes these, wax melts hadn't quite come to that conclusion yet, which by the sounds of things she's at. And that's the thing that I'm trying to reiterate to young artists and myself, is that value yourself. Don't overvalue, because it's very easy to be like, oh, I'm £1,000. Like, no. If you need to start at a level. Totally. When you start seeing those numbers pick up, bookings coming in, commissions, that's when you know, right, okay, my stock value's going up.
So the way that I've done it was, when I started out, I did my prices. And my prices were competitive with others around here. Now, not competitive to your hand wash down behind B&M, but I'm producing something completely different to what they are.
Totally.
And the expectation there is different. So,
totally. Well, for example, you wouldn't take an E-type Jag, though.
Some people will.
Yeah, well, that's true. Anyways.
You shouldn't. You should get me, because they're my favorite car. But I was priced at it competitively, and because it was my first time, I put on, until I started in August 2017, so until the 31st of October 2017, I offered 35% off, knowing that's going to get me out there.
Yeah, it's going to build your brand.
Once I hit that, and everybody knows, because I kept publishing that, on the 31st, you got this much time, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
On the 1st of November, the prices went to full price.
Yeah.
There was no discount.
Yeah, totally.
And then they stayed at that level until, they were meant to go up in September this year. They ended up going up in August because of me going full time, and I needed that extra income.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was not priced at a place where it was feasible
for you to continue
full time.
Yeah.
So, but I have a lot of regulars, and I didn't want to annoy them. So all my regulars are still on my 2017 prices until April this year, until the new tax year. One, to keep them in the good books and keep them around, but two, they understand.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with pricing, is like, sometimes you do have to cut your price down a little bit for certain things. Opportunities, some opportunities are a case where you have to take it. E-types, for example. And, I've had commissions in the past where I've worked for very little amount of what I should, because the opportunity was great. So I get that. But then it is also okay, like, it's, by the sounds of things, you're in a situation now where you know your value. And I think that's that's a big stepping stone in starting a business, an art studio, whatever it is knowing the value of that.
Yeah. So my day rate now is £250. My day rate, when I was thinking, how much do I need to earn to make this feasible? I need to earn a minimum of £50 a day. That will pay my bills, right? So let's go, £100, that will make me live comfortably. I can have savings, stuff like that. And so that's what I priced myself at. I was like, if I want to get the booking, I'm not saying that's what I told people how much I was. I'm saying that's how much I wanted to earn minimum. So whether that's having one full valet a day because they're £100, or whether I'm having 3 regulars, something like that, then that hit my threshold. But now I'm like, well, actually, I can fit more in. Yeah. Things don't take as long as they did when I was in the car because it's all to hand in the van. So I can fit another car in, right? So now my minimum is 150, but I'm aiming for 250.
Yeah.
250 pounds a day, that's a good solid day's work. 12 hours.
Totally.
They get 12 hours of my time.
Yeah.
So I have taken on a booking in January for 2 days for a fellow detailer to come to Burnham and train with me.
Cool.
So he's coming, he's bringing his van, we're going to work on his van.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message, actually. So he did an order for a couple of 3D prints I'm doing at the moment. And so I shipped them to him, and then he messaged me saying, I want to find the message, actually, because it's actually a really nice message.
Do you want to move the mic a little bit closer as well?
Yeah.
There you go, that's perfect.
All right, let me have a look. Because I understand where he's coming from in an inspirational point of view. Because I have that inspiration to other detailers, such as Valet Nova, who I went down to Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago and did some training with him. Now I learned how to wet sand a car there.
Yeah.
So that's now something else I offer. It's not something
It's a new skill.
It's an also very niche skill. Because when you get a deep scratch in a certain location, you can get that out. Whereas I'm thinking more on the bigger side that I want to wet sand an entire car to get the orange peel out now.
Yeah. Somebody
who's going to pay that has to be somebody who loves their car.
Yeah, and wants to make
that investment. It's a £3,000 job. Yeah. So, but this guy sent me a message who's now coming down to do training and said to me, it actually hit quite hard because I now know that I'm now an inspiration to someone I've been an inspiration to someone else.
Yeah, totally.
So I know how he feels. So it says, you give me a lot of inspiration in the whole business mindset, and I hope to become half the detailer you are. I'm hoping to get my own van at the start of the new year and really get my business going once I've sold my car. It's very difficult to run out the back of a hatchback. Now, I know exactly how he feels because I ran my business out of my Golf and my Polo for years.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went back to him and I said, look, I know exactly how. We connected on that level because we both come from the same place. He's just got a job as a firefighter, permanent job.
Cool.
So he's gonna do exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Have a full-time job and make this into the full-time job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and I just messaged him back saying, hey, remember that in the new year when you're booking in for a training day with me? And he went, I'm down for it. And then like all of a sudden he's booked in for 2 days training.
That's so sick.
But then that's where the Fox and Goose comes into play because I messaged them, can I have some accommodation? His friends and family rates. Yeah. So the Fox and Goose are still looking after me even though they made me redundant.
Yeah, totally.
But I understand why they had to make me redundant. So, and if I can throw them somebody to stay in their rooms for a couple of nights,
Yeah,
why not?
100%.
So, but yeah, the fact that I now have my first trainee coming down in the new year is incredible.
So cool. And it's so cool that he has a similar journey through this as well, because it's sort of so much more relatable to you as well, I think. Like, yeah, I've had assistants in the past, and it's weird because you end up talking to them and it's like, oh shit, I was in the same place 5 years ago. Like, it's really weird, like, but in a cool, like, okay, let's do this sort of thing. Like with the Brickworks, for example, we've got a couple of people that want to come in and do like work experience. You remember, like in school, doing work experience in college. And there's a couple of like different artists who want to come in and do assisting work on curating exhibitions or podcasting and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to start like, it's crazy because we're both in our mid-20s as well. This is the reality check I try and keep giving myself, is that, shit, I'm only 25.
Like, we've got a long way to go yet.
100%.
Even though they're moving the retirement age further and further away from us.
Imagine what it's going to be like when we're like 75 and retirement's like 95. Yeah. It's like, fuck. Like
polishing those cars.
It's like bending over and you're like dislocating discs. It's like, but yeah, it's really interesting actually to be in that position because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that I was there as an artist and like being like, oh, can I come and assist with you to learn something? It's really a strange dynamic I found. I enjoy it. I enjoy, as I said to you before, like sitting down and listening to people and understanding stories as part of what I do for a living as a photographer, but also I enjoy helping other people to develop skills. And by the sounds of things, this individual is coming to help with you, is learning to helping to learn those things.
I'm never comfortable in my skill set. I will always want to learn more. So I'm always looking for the next opportunity to learn something else. So my next opportunity will be paint protection film. I want to learn how to do that and offer that as another. It's just like a clear vinyl. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. But I am. So next year I'm getting my unit.
Cool.
And I can finally get a car again because I have somewhere to store it.
Yeah.
And I want to get a car that is going to be my showpiece. Now, I'm going to spend all this time and all this money on this car, and it's going to look immaculate. And then I'm going to drive it on the road. Cool. How do you protect that?
Yeah.
Well, you can say, all right, we'll protect it with wax, ceramic coatings, things that offer now.
Yeah.
But you just know that if a stone chip comes flying at you at 70 mile an hour, that ceramic coating is not going to stop that.
No. And
PPF will relatively stop it. You scuff against the bumper. The PPF's generally going to save it. It is so tough and versatile.
That sounds like a really...
It's not bulletproof.
No. Well, could you imagine if it was? Should we try very expensive. I was going to say, shall we shoot your show car as a test? But no, that sounds really interesting because I've seen... It's as people, everybody knows who watch this podcast, I end up talking to whomever the guest is for God knows how long before we actually sit down and talk.
We've already had this conversation.
Yeah, we've already spoke about it, but no, it's really interesting because like when you were saying it not even half an hour ago, like the smile on your face, like I could fucking feel that energy coming from you, like this next step, getting a unit and all of these things. It's like, it's weird because that's exactly how I felt when moving in here. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Like, I'm making this commitment. I'm now stepping that big step forward, you know, like. Well,
I could already have a unit now, but the commitment was too much.
Totally.
They wanted a 10-year lease. In this current economic, you can say, well, your business is going really well. Yeah, but what happens in 18 months' time?
Yeah. What happens in 5 years?
What happens in 5? Yeah, there was a 5-year break.
Yeah.
Okay, I could get out in 5 years, but something can drastically change in that
totally
time.
And it was the same for us moving in here because the landlord wanted 3 years minimum, but we were able to sort of, you know, meet with them and sort of show and understand that we're not just moving in here to fucking party. This is a serious space to use. So we're able to get a year's license, and we're able to use this space for a year with the idea of, if we do stay afterwards, to top up and go on to a longer lease. So having that versatility is kind of key because you want to be able to do that. But I suppose in your circumstance, it's almost like you kind of want to have a space locked in, but not necessarily to the point where there's no get out.
Well, the place that I've managed to, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but the potential place is too good to let go. The price that it's priced at and the size that I'm getting, it will do me for 5 years or so.
Yeah, totally.
And I set out my goals for a 5-year goal, and I try and achieve that in 12 months. Trying my hardest, because what's the point otherwise? You're just dragging out that long-term goal.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no point. If you can achieve it sooner, achieve it.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck by me is set out a long-term goal, try and achieve it as soon as possible. Because you'll then set yourself more goals and achieve more in your lifetime than you would expect to. And if you don't do that, and you don't set out goals, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah,
you're setting yourself up for the wonderment of what to do with life again.
And you'll get comfortable and complacent.
Totally.
And then you'll lose your customers because there'll be other things that are going up bigger and better.
Yeah, and I suppose especially when you're in a heavily competitive industry, which detailing is by the looks of things. You know, obviously I don't know that industry very well, but it's constantly evolving, you know, learning new skills, it's constantly developing, whether that's from a physical skill of learning how to, you know, use paint protection, or, you know, developing your branding, developing your, you know, web presence, presence and Instagram, and we were talking about yourself sort of vlogging as such when you were doing those E-types, and it's like, social media. So
you get a different interaction. Okay, with my Instagram followers, 90% of my Instagram followers are other detailers.
Yeah,
and we're trying. There's a load of us that are trying to get the aspect across that don't be bitching about each other. Work together, work as a community. Because if you're really busy and you can't fulfill someone, but you find someone that's at your level and recommend them across, which is how I got the E-types and how I get a few different businesses, is because he's unit based and I'm mobile. Now when I get my unit, I will still be mobile. I can't lose that client base.
No, it's such a strong client base to have as well, being mobile.
But building that community up rather than bitching about each other just makes it so much nicer. And the amount of people that do not have manners is ridiculous.
I know that feeling.
Taking orders for the 3D prints that I'm doing at the moment, and you'll just get a message that says, "What's your price list? How much does this cost?" Like, no. Hello.
Yeah.
At least give
Talk
me a hello.
to me like a human being.
You're talking to someone. So it's, "Hello, I was wondering how much this would be. Many thanks." Something like that. Yeah. Don't just go, "How much is that?"
Yeah, I suppose it's like some people are very blunt and abrupt with the way they approach business. I think that's the strange thing about business and running your own business, especially because when you're employed by somebody, you're almost taken away from that. So for example, if somebody was employed under you, OB detailing, they wouldn't necessarily know about that, like the messages and the rudeness or whatever. Whereas I don't know if the microphones or if you guys can hear this, but
is he running on a treadmill?
He's either running on a treadmill or he's cutting through the floor.
Yeah.
He'll fall into the studio in a minute.
He'll be featuring on the podcast.
We'll get it on the news. Man falls through the ceiling onto podcast.
Burnham-on-sea.com.
Shout out, Mark. But yeah, I think that's the strange thing is every time I talk, oh my God. But I could probably try and edit this out, maybe, hopefully. We can edit the sound a little bit, kind of. I think that's the thing is like learning when you start a business, especially, like you're the front of house, you're the finance manager, you're the social media brander, like you are all of those things, like, and learning to manage all of that can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and also switching off.
Oh, don't. I'm terrible at switching off.
When I started the 3D prints, 3 weeks ago, and I was getting orders in, and I was like, right, well, there's a demand for this. So I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning, fulfilling orders, doing the designs, invoicing people. Bearing in mind, I've already worked an 8 till 8 doing detailing in the day, and then I was getting back up at 7 o'clock to then go more. Yeah. And I started doing it, and I was like, why? The prints take so long. I don't need to get these designs done now and then. People will send me their design. I will tell them how much it's going to cost. I will send out that invoice, and then the next evening I'll go back and I will do a design. 1, 2. I have a list. It's about 3 A5 pages long at the moment.
Christ.
Of just the designs.
Yeah.
And I'll do 4 or 5 in an evening. The next evening I'll do invoices, and then I'll vice versa.
Yeah.
So I'm back in bed by 11 o'clock, like an old man.
Mate, I'm in bed by 10.
God, I wish I was that early.
Oh, mate, it's so good.
But then you've got to think, right, well, now we need to post on social media of the work that we're doing, because 90% of my business comes from social media.
Yeah, totally.
Sharing my work on Instagram, on Facebook, that's how I get my customer base. Also word of mouth. Yes, I have a website. Do I get much from my website? No. Yes, I have Yelp, Google. Again, 90% of my work comes from social media. Yeah. And if I didn't have a business on social media like I do, I probably would delete my Facebook. Because the only other thing that I use it for is scrolling through, looking at people's live, and watching videos.
Yeah, it's time wasting.
Because I've got nothing else.
Yeah. Because it's time wasting. Yeah. Like, to be brutally honest, that's what it is. It's killing productivity, and I'm exactly the same. Yeah. If I didn't have to be on it, I wouldn't be on it. No. It's such a paradoxical platform. And I think it also, the amount of conversations I have, especially with other artists, you know, obviously most of my friends and people I communicate with on a day-to-day are artists. Obviously it's my line of work, but we seem to talk about the problems with social media, especially, you know, Facebooks and Instagrams, and like how it is so taxing on our mental health. Like, and we don't realize it sometimes. You know, I used to, which I've spoke about in the past, but I used to make like a daily vlog on Instagram. Like a daily Insta vlog was the name of it. And I didn't realize how taxing that was on my mental health until I stopped about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And I haven't done it. And I feel way better from it. I feel so much more relaxed.
Yeah, and you think these YouTubers are getting slated for all the stuff that they do. Yeah. And it's like, every day. Actually, you think they wake up in the morning, they film their life, and then before they go to bed, they have to edit that. Yeah. They have to spend 2-3 hours a day, a night, whatever, whenever they decide to edit, editing it, and they have to rewatch themselves constantly.
Yeah. And it's that, and it's also the brutality of how people comment as well. So like you were saying about how people can be quite rude with regards to messaging yourself for a prize.
Oh, they get a rude. They normally get a rude from £20. That's all they get back.
Just literally £20.
They literally get from £20 because they don't deserve a hello. If they're not going to give me, they're not going to receive.
But it's interesting because some people might see that as like it's okay to message like that because it's to the point, it's blunt, which in some contexts it might be, but there is something about just being nice, being like, hey man, how you doing? I was just wondering how much this is, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that must be really hard to deal with, like, for example, comments on, you know, your YouTube video. Like I don't think I've ever had bad comments on YouTube videos.
I'm going to give it one later.
I'm expecting you to like dump one on this podcast. Terrible show, never go on it again.
No, I won't, like I said earlier, I won't be rewatching this one. Hate the sound of my inbox.
Oh, mate. But that's the thing is like, you know, I've been in positions where people have sent me nasty messages on Instagram and, you know, calling me fucking overweight and all of this shit. And it's like, when I was a bit bigger than what I am now. And it's hard to deal with, especially when you got when you got mental health problems anyways. Like, and I'm very open with it. I always have been. And, you know, dealing with depression and anxiety and all of these like aspects of one's mind. And then on top of that, being in a public forum in some capacity, whether it's uploading a video of myself to Instagram or podcasting or YouTube it or whatever, you're putting yourself in a public forum, and a public forum that, let's be honest, has no rules, really. And then you're getting nasty shit back in return in that. It's like, fuck, that really fucks with your head, like, to deal with that.
But then you think about it with, if you met that person in person, how would they actually act?
Yeah, well, it's a good question to ask.
Because they could slate you. You obviously don't know who they are. They then meet you in the street and like, hey, and they want to be all buddy because you've got this following.
Yeah, potentially.
They don't have.
I think that's the hardest thing is like when it's anonymous, that's easy. Or like people whom I don't know. The hardest is when it's people you know and people that you've been friends with or whatever, or you know fairly close. And then they're the ones saying, you know, whatever messages. Like they're the ones that are difficult to deal with. But it's like sometimes you have to kill people with kindness. And it's like sometimes you just got to be nice. You can call me an arsehole all you want, but if I'm like, hey man, how you doing? On the street, you're either going to be like, hey, I'm all right, or you're going to punch me in the face. It's going to be either or. And I'd much rather that than just ignore each other, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to be like that now, because with this place, it's like, it's quite taxing on the mind anyways, just constantly, you know, thinking about work as you are with your work, but always thinking about what's next. And then dealing with all the other stuff as well, like all the other mental health. It's just like, okay, what can I mitigate out of my fucking mind to make my life easier? Okay, this thing, this hatred, whatever that's going on, that's quite easy to mitigate. Just be normal. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, people are always going to hate on you. It goes back to what we were saying about feeling like, I was playing a harp then off the mic. It's like people always might see your comments as disrespectful or hate on you in some capacity. You know, whether that's because they think you're bragging, or maybe because they think, you know, oh, I should be at this stage, why am I not there? Jealousy, you know, whatever. But it's just understanding that people are people. You know what I mean? People are going to naturally dislike something that they may want to be doing themselves, or dislike somebody who goes against their morals and their way forward.
Quite interesting. There's another valeter called Valet Nova, and he does something called Nova Insights, which is an OnlyFans for detailers, essentially, we like to call it. And he's basically, you subscribe to that, and he gives you support, he gives you tips and tricks. If you have a question, just message him on Instagram. He's the nicest. I went and did 2 days of training with him down in Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago.
Cool.
One of the nicest guys I've ever met. And at the beginning, he was getting loads of hate for it. And I just turned around to him and went, you know why? And he was like, why? I was like, because they didn't think of it first.
Yeah, 100%.
They
100%.
didn't see that business opportunity.
They didn't see that there was a chance to be different.
No. And Urban Valets is another one. He brings out a guide telling you exactly how to valet cars, detail cars.
That's cool.
And again, he gets hate on that because he's making it so accessible for people that, one, it wasn't thought of before, and two, it's going to bring more people into the industry. Well, that's fine.
Totally. Yeah.
Let's make this industry great, but you then need to step up and show yourself that you're better.
You need to learn those new skills. You need to be willing to adapt and change.
Otherwise you'll be overtaken.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And I think that's the thing. It's like some individuals are happy being stagnant. They're happy being in a singular place and not changing. And I respect that in some manners. If you're happy doing that, you're happy. But then you get the people that want to keep growing, and the people that want to keep changing and evolving and learning. It's like they're the people you need to surround yourself with.
You were talking about Jeff from Amazon on, was it the first podcast?
Oh yeah, the first podcast.
Yeah. So I know someone who hates on him so much. And I'm thinking, why are you hating on him?
Yeah.
He has made his success from his bedroom.
Yeah.
He started out, well, actually his garage. He started Amazon from his garage.
Yeah. With a banner that's spray painted. Yeah.
Everyone has to start somewhere.
Totally.
And the fact that he is now nearly the richest guy. I think Bill Gates is still quite there.
Yeah.
But he has all this money, but he has grown a very, very successful business.
Totally.
And it hasn't come without sacrifice.
Massive sacrifices, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, we don't know what they are. And most of us don't. But you can't hate on someone for their success.
Yeah, totally.
Because you have to work at success. Even if you were handed it down from if your dad or mum was successful and you were handed that success down, you still have to work on that. Otherwise, it then doesn't become a success.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, in the art world, it's kind of like, what is success? That's the question that everybody asks themselves. I'm sure it's in other industries as well, but especially in the art world. So, like, the idea of being successful, like, what is it? That's a question.
Is it having a print in the museums in London?
Yeah.
What is it?
Totally. And it's like, if you take money out of the equation, because success is, you know, people look at that as a monetary thing. If you take money out of the situation, it's like, then the question gets really muddied. You're like, okay, what is success? I don't actually know. And that's always an interesting conversation to have with people, because for me, I see my own personal success as human growth. Like, I want to keep growing. I want to learn. I want to get healthier, exercise more, build more. Like, that's my success. Other people have different successes. And I find those are really interesting conversations, because people, when you take money out of it, and that's not to be like anti-money, it's not. We need it. Everybody needs it, of course. But once you take it out of it, people may not know what it is they're actually trying to achieve. And if you take money away from that, what are you trying to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I am trying to work my hardest now to have an easier life later on.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
Why would you want to be 65 and still working your ass off to make ends meet? Work when you're fit and healthy and young. Get that success then, and pass it on to someone else, or step back and still take a little cut. Whatever it is, you need to grind now Because I'm not going to be able to bend over an engine bay for 4. That's really bad. I'm not going to be able to bend over an engine bay for 4.5 hours like I did last week. Because it kills my back now, and I'm 24.
Yeah. You
can't do that when you're 65.
And I think grafting, like being a hard worker, it's very easy to. It's a conversation I've had with somebody in the past, but being a grafter, it's very easy to say it's just a physical thing. I don't think it is. I think you can mentally, so I use the word like grinding. Everybody, I'm grinding. Like, it's very 2020.
The grind is real.
The grind is real. But yeah, it's very easy to say that is just a physical thing. I don't think it is. Mentally, it's a mindset. It's like constantly moving forward, always thinking of what's next. And it's interesting you say that about like leaning over the engine bay, because that's such a physical thing. You know what I mean? It's a physically taxing thing to be doing anyways.
When you're in that position for you can lean over something quite, if it's for a short amount of time, minute, 2 minutes, whatever, you start feeling strain, but it's nothing. When you're there polishing a carburetor for hours, or getting I got quite big hands, so getting your hands down into a tight engine bay, it's just like you've got to get yourself in weird angles that your body isn't used to, because it's not every day I work on an E-type engine, not at all.
But that's the grind, you know what I mean? That's the grind. You're in that situation, it's like, fuck it, I gotta get this done. I've got to do this, and I've got to do it good.
And the graft and the grind you have to do to get yourself in that position.
100%.
For me, was 3 years ago when I set up OB detailing, I put the E-type on my logo. And every day I saw my logo and I went, that's what I want to work on. That is my goal. And if anyone saw my stories last week of me working on them, the amount of responses I got saying how infectious my happiness was, and you could say there was a real passion there. It was my manners in the vlogs in comparison to the vlogs that I've done before is completely different. It was like I was a different person, because they just knew that I achieved that goal and that passion that I had. Where do I go next? Now, if anyone has an Aston Martin DB5, that's where I want to go next. Well, that's coming. But to get to that point has been a journey. And
totally.
I wouldn't change it.
No. And that's the great thing, is like, sometimes you have to sit back and reflect, because it's so easy to get caught up in that. Okay, what's next? It's so easy to get caught up in that. And I've been in that fucking mindset so much, even in the last 2 months, that I try and make a real physical effort to stop and reflect and just think about what's been achieved. You know, success isn't necessarily the long lifetime, thing that we all think it is. It's the day to day. It's like, this is your first podcast, sitting down and doing a podcast. This is a success for yourself. You've been successful because you're doing a podcast. You see what I mean? Like, that's how, for me, my personal growth is changing in that dynamic, rather than being like, well, I didn't win an award, or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, so I'm not successful. It's like, no, you've done this.
You look at Leonardo DiCaprio. How many Oscars has he won? One.
Yeah.
And it took him years.
How long? Yeah, so long. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, we both are good friends with George, and he's a complete grafter. Like, he works hard, bless him, And I've had the conversations with him in the past. I'm like, you just need to learn to stop and look at what you're doing, what you're achieving, what your goals of where you're going, because you get so caught up in the day-to-day.
Yeah, because I know for a fact that I'd rather be cleaning cars than trains, but the money that he gets is decent, and he can get comfortable with that, which is...
Yeah.
But I know that that's not what he wants to do.
No, definitely not. And it's like, he knows where he wants to go now. He's taken that time to stop and reflect and go, actually, no, this is what I want to achieve. And that's why I think it's so important, is having that time to stop and reflect. And by the sounds of things, you already know where you want to go and the next thing you want to achieve. But I would almost give you like a pre-warning of being like, before you take your unit on, just take a day, not even a day, 6 hours, just sit by a lake somewhere quiet and just think, reflect, like, you know what I mean? Because as soon as you take that step through that unit, it's like, holy shit, here we go.
Shit's gonna hit the fan.
Yeah. Because you're moving. You suddenly go from moving at 50 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. Yeah. You see what I mean? So it's like, if you don't take a bit of time in that to just be like, okay, let's breathe. Let's just breathe. You just you don't,
you think
and
of what it took you to get this place set up.
Yeah,
you
totally.
Imagine what I'm going to have to do to get it up to a state-of-the-art detailing area.
That's what I mean. It's like, if you don't take that little bit of time to stop, recharge, regenerate, get your mind in a good place, it can get fucking overwhelming. Like, you just like running off into the forest at full speed, you know. Yeah. So that's what I mean, man. It's like, it's so sick though that, you know, because a conversation we had before we started podcasting, you were telling me about like where it all sort of started and like the interest in detailing began. It's so cool to see like the journey.
You're going to ask the question, aren't you?
I'm not going to ask the question.
Why do you detail?
Well, you just asked yourself the question there.
No, it is literally just, starting 3 years ago, but ever since I was a kid, I was washing cars. Now, whether that's with a sponge and a bucket, which I do not recommend to anyone, but it's where I started. And going from washing with a single bucket and a single sponge over a whole entire car and making that bucket last one entire car kills me now.
All the micro scratches.
Now have using the 3 buckets, and people will be like, why is he using 3 buckets? But, you use 3 buckets. And we don't use a sponge, and because paint is delicate. And artists will know that paint is delicate.
Very much so.
But there was something that I said to you that I wanted to talk about, and I think that everybody should do this, is write yourself a letter to your 10-year-old self.
Yeah, totally.
So Radio 1 are doing this thing at the moment where they are letting people write a letter to their 10-year-old self. Because of the pandemic, like, you need to tell yourself that things aren't going to be as bad, and you reflect on it. Now, I haven't physically written it down, but it's all in my head, and I won't probably write it down because it's not something that I will be reminded by it for this podcast, so I won't need to write it down. But it's definitely something that it makes you think things haven't been that bad.
Totally.
So I'll just go ahead and start it because it's a difficult topic. So, dear Owen, you're only 10 years old and things are pretty crap. You're being abused by your stepbrother, both physically and sexually. Now, things will get better. You'll move out in September. You'll move to your dad's house where things will be safe. And from there, you'll make some amazing friends in Year 6, and then go into Year 7 where you make some even better friends. From there, you'll join the Army Cadets in Year 8, and you'll have a fantastic time and be very successful in that. And you will achieve more than what your dad achieved in his cadet career, which was always your plan and always your goal. You will get a job at 14 where you will work as a wedding waiter and pot wash and start earning money, where you learn what monetary value is. You will still love your mum, even though she should have helped you sooner, and she will be there when you are old enough to understand what happened. She will leave Steve, and that will be the best thing that she's ever done, but she will be financially crippled, and she will make you feel guilty for leaving. But at the end of the day, it was what you needed, and it made you safe. Bev, your stepmom, is the most amazing person and was always more of a mother to you during that period than your actual mother. And your dad will always be your role model. They do not understand what went on, and you will never probably end up telling them until they hear this podcast. Your sisters know what happened. They're, although supportive about it, we don't talk about it. And they, if you ever need to talk to them, they're always there. You'll get some girlfriends. They won't be the one. You'll find Molly, and she will help you for a lot of things. When you find Molly, she will help you out of the debt situation that you had, to understand why you need to be out of the debt. She will support you on your road through redundancy and starting your successful business. she will break your heart, unfortunately, but these things happen, and she will always be your best friend, and I know that she's always proud of you. And lastly, just succeed in life. You're going places. You will achieve what you want to achieve. You don't want to go in the army. Although you think you do, you don't. So you'll go and train as a chef. You know, it's not for you either. You'll find that your passion is in car detailing, and you will make that a success. So yeah, take it to yourself, your 24-year-old self.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
How did that feel, just getting that off your chest? Like just talking about it.
Kind of like a relief. Like, I welled up. It was kind of difficult.
Yeah.
I can imagine. It's so when Molly was really the only person who knew, she helped me so much through it, into the fact that now I'm comfortable talking about it. I have friends that know about it. No one will understand what I went through because it's what I went through. But it's really cliche to say, but a thought shared is a thought halved. So now the fact that Molly knew, it was kind of like a relief, because it made me think, actually, it's not that bad. I used to have night terrors and all sorts, and I can remember the last night terror that I had was, I was up at the University of Loughborough with her, which is where she's at uni. We were in a nice single bed together, and I had a night terror. And to have this, all of a sudden, this warmth and weight around me to comfort me, to wake up to that rather than to wake up in shock, just made me feel that actually
everything's
things
okay.
aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Things are better now. You don't need to worry about what happened.
Totally.
And it will always be a part of me.
Yeah. And and I think that's the thing is, I think that's the thing is, like, when we've been through mentally difficult things, like whether it's something that happened to us physically or heartbreak or whatever it might be, you know, you can grow from it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's hard to see in the moment, like really hard to see that, like, there is growth in that. Even 5 years on, however many years, it can be hard to see that. And I think once you figure that out, once you figure that you can conquer a demon or whatever it might be, the relief that comes from that. Yeah.
Well, my escape was always either cycling or detailing cars, because you spend hours on your own reflecting on that work that you're doing, or having time to think with the cycling. That's now how I got away with it. That's my getaway. Whereas before, when I was in school, my getaway from it was helping others. So if they were going through a shit time, I'd listen to them, I'd help them out. And I have a friend who was my first ever girlfriend back in primary school, so not a real girlfriend, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But when I left Trowbridge to come and live in Burnham with my dad, I spoke to her for years and years and years, and she was always going through a shit time, and she was self-harming and stuff like that, and I'd always be there for her. But that made me feel good because I was helping someone else.
Yeah, totally.
Have the same thought, well, not the same thoughts, but similar mental battles. Yeah. Because we all battle different things, and no person is the same. So you can't relate to anyone.
No.
And
you can understand.
You can understand the struggles. Yeah. But you can't
physically know what that felt like. Yeah, of course.
You don't know what exactly. They can explain to you what happened if they feel comfortable. But even then, you're only getting what they're telling you. They won't always tell you everything. No, and that's the thing, is when you're reflecting on something, like especially something, you know, major in your life, to somebody, not to yourself, but to somebody, it's easy to miss bits and take little bits out to make it easier to explain. Yeah. You can never fully detail something back to somebody. You know, back in 2018, I had a really bad mental health breakdown. I've been very open with it on social media, and I tried committing suicide. And you know, when I
iterate that story to people of how I felt in that moment, although I'm trying to be as open and honest to whether it's a counsellor or a very trusted person in my life, there's bits that I'm taking out for my own, mental safety. Security. Yeah, and insecurity of hoping that somebody else doesn't look at that in a certain way.
Yeah.
But I think that's natural to be like that. It's only when you find a release you can start to calm those nerves. Yeah. Cycling by the sounds of things has been your relief, and your work as well with car detailing. Mine's been arts and running have been my releases. And once you find those things, and meditating recently, I've started really getting into meditating.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Make time. When you start to find those releases, you can start to actually break these things down and be much more open with them, and it's really powerful for yourself for the letter that you just wrote to yourself then, to be so open and honest. Like I could feel that in me, your honesty to yourself,
But it's like when I've told friends in the past, they're like, "Oh, Owen," or I'm like, "No, I don't want your sympathy.
No.
Do not want it. I want you to understand
Yeah.
that we all go through shit. I don't want your sympathy. I don't want you to look at me differently." Which is why you also miss stuff out, because you don't want people to look at you differently.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely an element of that. But I think once you not get over, that's wrong terminology, but when you understand that people are going to look at you differently no matter what. People look at you differently for the shoes you wear. Yeah. So why the fuck does it matter?
You shouldn't see them wear work shoes.
Mate, I wear Brocast.
I changed these. I made sure they were in the
I literally wear Brocast Doc Martens anyways. But that's the thing, is like, society is so, we're judging each other without even knowing. It's subconscious. Subconsciously,
you look at someone and you look them up and down first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do.
But also you trying to gauge their body gesture as well. If you're first introducing yourself,
totally.
Like you look them up and down, you see, right, how am I introducing myself?
Are they threatening? Are they nervous? How is that conversation, that interaction sort of taking place? That's natural, I think. But when, like judgment is weird, because we feel that we're scared of judgment from other people, which is almost natural at this point. Well, I think it has been. But when you get to a point where you're used to being judged, or you're used to understanding that no matter what you do, no matter how much you try, you're going to get people judging you about every fucking little thing in your life.
You're going to need to put a warning on this podcast.
Oh, mate, there's an explicit and also a warning. But, when you get to that point where you stop overly caring about the judgment people have on yourself, that's fucking freedom. Like, that's freedom of your mind. And for my personal growth that I've been on in the last 2 and a bit years, it's taken me a lot to get to that point where I am no longer necessarily worrying about the judgment of others. Of course, it's subconscious. I can never turn that shit off. It's in my mind. But what I can do is I can sit down and think about it. I can reflect on it. I can take a moment and be like, this is normal. It's good. You can still be you. You can still talk openly. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that comes with being a creative in some capacity and being in the creative industry, because we're all very open and honest, whether it's about our sexuality or whatever it might be in some context. Whereas other industries, and this is me not bearing on them in any ways, but heavy industries, especially men in heavy industries, that open and honesty, it's almost nil in some ways. Of the heavy industry that I've seen anyway, personally, this is my personal story to everyone that's listening or watching. Yeah, it's different. And being able to understand the situation you find yourself in and the people that you surround yourself with is so fucking valuable, because it helps you grow as a person, I think. Yeah.
But also, unfortunately, there's still this stereotype of men shouldn't cry.
Oh, mate, I cry every fucking day.
Why can't we cry?
Mate, I'm crying now.
Your story. But it's like, why can't men cry? We aren't this masculine face that we show ourselves as. We all have these deep dark secrets, these deep thoughts that can't be controlled. You don't know what they've gone through. So if they need to cry, just cry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the toxic masculinity that is in certain aspects of life, it's hard to step away from that because we're born into it in some ways.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I feel very strongly about, not just the next generation, but the generation after that and the generation after that, is having a world that people refer to as snowflakes. And, you know, okay, in some aspects, potentially, yeah. But at least we're open and honest. They're being open and honest with their emotions and how they feel. Men should be able to fucking cry.
Yeah.
But some generations that are still around to this day believe very strongly that men must be masculine and drink dirty pints.
Yeah.
And yeah, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. If that's, you know, okay with you, it's totally cool. It's up to you. But don't let that control you. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? That's the thing that I've really been trying to do, is not allow other people's judgment of how I should be as a human, whether I'm open with my emotions. And yeah, I cry like fucking once a week sometimes, just from stress, probably more than anything else. But that's because I'm comfortable with doing that within myself, because I've been able to get myself to that point. And this is what I try and say is, like, you can get to that point if that is what you want to be. If you want to be comfortable, which by the sounds of things, you're now on a journey of finding that comfortable, you know, being comfortable.
Yeah. So
and Molly
sort of like
was
the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Sort of, I'm in that place where actually you can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a big fucking step. Yeah, and that is such a big step. I can't tell you how big that is from my own personal experience, and other people will say the same thing to you, as being able to be in a position where you can sit down and talk about it openly and be okay with talking about it and comfortable to a certain extent with talking about it. There's only growth from that. There's no negativity. And if people put judgment on that, fuck those people. Yeah. That's the last thing I will say. Because, like, they don't get it. If you don't even want to sit down and understand somebody else or try and understand their story, don't bother.
No.
Because what are you going to do? Put a nasty comment? Or you're going to be like, oh, this fucking guy... You know,
just leave it.
Leave it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, I suppose, goes back to this men don't cry. If that's your waypoint on life, how you feel, keep it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not walking around toting men should cry, you know, screaming it from the hilltops. I'm not. But that's how I feel. So if you feel that men shouldn't cry, cool, keep it to yourself.
Yeah. It's just like knowing what you should and shouldn't say to people.
Yeah, totally.
If someone looks like shit and you're going to meet them, and you don't just say, hey, is everything okay? Don't go to them and go, oh, you look like shit.
Yeah. I think it obviously depends on the dynamic you have with that person. So if you're really close friends with them, and
if it was like George, like I turn around to George and go, George, you need some sleep, mate. You look like shit.
He literally said that to me the other day. But if that was somebody on the street, you know what I mean? It's just fucking plain rude. Like, and I think that's self-growth as well, because it's very easy to allow other people's opinions and fucking judgments on you to control your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to try and be mentally, you know, have a mental fortitude. You know, I follow a guy called David Goggins. I speak about him all the fucking time on social media. Just typical. But he's like an ultra athlete. He does like ultra marathons and all these things. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. Anyways, the way he thinks about exercise is from a mental toughening perspective, not from a men shouldn't cry mental toughening, from a being able to deal with adversity and deal with tough times. He calls it callousing your mind, putting calluses on your mind. Like, I got calluses on my hands, and I'm sure you do from
my hands are pretty soft.
Actually, car wash. Yeah, thinking about.
Although they are kind of destroyed
Yeah, I was about to say they must be pretty dry.
From the microfiber.
Yeah. But like he talks about like mentally callousing your mind by like going on these long runs and using exercise to like physically put yourself in a position where you have to get through.
Yeah.
And I think that is so true that, we should be more able to be open, especially in society, and young men in society, be open with their emotions. But we also have to be able to deal with them in our own heads. We have to build a level of ability to deal with certain things. And that comes with time. It comes with practice. It comes with patience. And it comes with hard work. Like you have to put the time and the energy in to build those calluses up in your mind. And I'm not saying this to be like, to anyone that's listening or watching and yourself, that to say that I'm like mentally hard. Fuck no, am I mentally hard? I still have days where I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed because I'm so anxious of life. But I have learned a lot from putting myself in positions to mentally push myself, and I think there's a lot to be had from that. And like, for example, you're working long days, you're probably learning a lot subconsciously from putting those hours in, from grinding away, knowing that you can do that on a day to day. Like that's mentally callousing your mind.
So that's where setting goals comes into play as well. Totally. Because if you don't have a goal, then you don't have a reason. And if you don't have a reason, you're going to stay in bed. Yeah. If you wake up in the morning and go, I really don't want to get out of bed, like I do when it's raining. I'm like, well, if I don't get out of bed, I'm not bettering myself. No. I'm not learning a new skill. I'm not achieving my overall goal of making a successful business. If I don't do that, if I stay in bed that day, that customer's going to be like, oh, he didn't come because it's raining. Yeah. Or he couldn't be bothered. Yeah. So then he tells his friend, which I may have got from him. Yeah. And then there's a domino effect.
It's a catch-22 again. Like, yeah, totally.
So although yes, you have to have your days off, and I go, sorry, I'm fully booked, and then I'm like, oh, I got a day off today. They're like, oh, you could have done my car today. No. Yeah. I've taken one day off this month. I'm not doing your car. No. You can wait.
And that's the thing, is like, I learned the hard way that you have to give yourself time. You have to be able to give yourself a day a week, a day every 2 weeks if you really must, a day a month maybe. But like giving yourself the time to rest, giving yourself the time to, I know I talk about reflecting all the time and it's a big thing for me, but may not be for others, but giving your time to reflect is so like, able to grow. You're able to find a lot of growth in that. And it stops you from burning out as well. Which
I
is
had
good.
Since starting, I had my first, I can't be bothered with this moment a few weeks ago when it was frosty.
Yeah.
You try and clean a car at -1, okay? You spray water on it, and the water freezes. And it's that moment I was like, oh, I can't be bothered. Yeah. But then you think, well, no, if I'm something I'm going to have to deal with. I'm a mobile valeter. This happens during the winter. Yeah. In the summer, I'm like, ugh, the water's drying too fast. Yeah. You can't have your spring and autumn times all year round. You want the summer long days. You don't want the winter shorter days. But then you don't want the frost, but you don't want the heat. It's like, where do we want to be in this? In a unit.
Which we're going.
And then the employees will come. Yeah. Which is...
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like, we're running up on an hour and a half, so... But let's power through 3 hours.
2-part podcast.
We'll go for a coffee, come back. But that's the thing, is like, you've been able to get yourself in a position where you are able to find your own personal growth and business growth. Like, there's nothing more you can ask for in life. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you're in your fucking mid-20s, man. Like, try and remember that. Try and tell yourself that.
The plan was, before being made redundant, I was going travelling in 2023.
Okay. Where are we going to travel?
66 different countries in the year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I go big. I go big. I don't go home. I go big.
I was about to say, that's basically an aeroplane every other day, almost.
Yeah, so we literally got a map and we literally drew. We had to do one change, which was we were flying into China, then flying to Japan, and then going back to Beijing. Yeah. But because their visa system is crap, we needed to buy 2 visas, and their visas are expensive.
Yeah.
So China, if you were in China, you need to get a visa. Prepare to have your bank account robbed.
Literally and figuratively.
Also prepare to be robbed.
They probably hacked it as well.
But we had to change it so that we were actually going from Hong Kong, Shanghai. I think that's right. My geography is not great. And then to Beijing, and then go back over to Japan, and then come back to Beijing just to stay in the airport to obviously catch a connecting flight, because then we didn't need a second visa. But it's things like that. Like, that was my goal. And then to be made redundant and having to start my business and go, I can't drop the business for you. Traveling's going to have to wait. And I'm going to have to do it in sections. I can't just do it in a year.
No. Well, this is the thing, is I suppose a goal that you could set yourself is to build enough of a business and an employee list to be able to do that.
I don't think I could leave it that long. I'm too hands-on.
Do you reckon?
If I had a business still going with people doing it for me, I wouldn't trust them.
Well, luckily we live in the world of smart TVs. and
checking on the cameras.
Literally looking at the CCTV while walking around Beijing.
3D printer's fine. 3D printer's fine. Yeah. John working well. Yeah. Stephen working
every morning.
Amy working fantastic. God, Pete, you just need to.
Come on, Pete. Sort your shit out, mate.
John, you're ahead. Come on, mate.
Put him in his place, Pete.
Going along about this, like talking on the phone. Have you seen what they're doing these days? The kids of these days.
No.
Yeah, well, call me, mate. Call me. It's like, no.
Wait, a full hand?
Yeah, because
because the phone's so big.
Because the phone is a flat and it's not like this anymore. It's like, hello.
Mate, that's so mad. I still remember my first flip phone, bro.
I had a Motorola Razr.
Same, mate. Motorola Razr's game changer phone.
You see, they brought a new one out.
The folding screen. Don't, mate. I was so tempted to buy one.
I know, they're really expensive, though.
Like £2,500, I think, or something ridiculous. I think you can only buy them in America as well.
And also, you get grit in it, and because it's not glass. Yeah. It's just a scratch.
Honestly, one of my life goals, one of my ambitions is in my career is to be able to do everything on one device. So like, not just send emails, but like edit video, edit photography. We're very close with folding phones. I really want somebody to bring out like a laptop or a decent size like tablet that can fold up into a mobile phone. That's what, if I could have that and it works flawlessly, I would happily throw down a lot of money on that, because like, I hate that. So I use a MacBook Pro to edit. I have to carry, it's the brand new one, so I have to carry about 13 dongles with me everywhere I go, because it doesn't have a port. Yeah, it's so annoying.
See, I have a PC that I built myself.
Okay, that's what this podcast is being recorded on. So it's like, I've got so many different computers all over the place. But yeah, like, the one thing that I hate is having to carry all of that shit around. So like on a shoot day, for example, if I'm doing a shoot in a studio, but not this studio, a different studio, I'd have to carry a laptop, dongles, camera gear, all of that stuff, like phone charger, laptop charger, all of that into a backpack. Fuck's sakes, you know what I mean? Like, I'd much rather just have.
And then you get to your shoot and you're like, I forgot that dongle.
It's like, oh, damn it, that dongle. Or the one that I always forget is memory cards. I forget a memory card almost every other shoot. It is terrible. But yeah, like, that's what I want to do, is be able to like just fold it out and there's my laptop, and then fold it away and there's my phone, sort of thing. But yeah, what was I going to say? Completely forgot.
Well, going on to my unit, I need somebody from the collective.
Yes, we did briefly mention this. So explain a little bit what you're looking for.
So I've got a 1,200 square foot unit coming, which so obviously the roller shutters are on the front. You go in, one wall's going to be lined with pallet wood because it's cheap. Yeah,
free. Easy.
The back wall, there'll be a wall coming out from the back, which will block off the detailing bay. And then that other back wall will be pallet. So over on the left-hand side, if it works out in this orientation, I don't know which way around they're doing the roller shutter yet, will be a blank white wall. And I would like somebody from the collective to come and do a mural on it.
Okay. Yeah, we can get that sorted for you. We can put it in the collective. Yeah, no worries, man. Well, as you just heard Owen say, if you've made it through this podcast, which has been a very deep and conversation that we've had, big title, you have just got a heads up before it goes in the collective. So, but yeah.
hopefully end of February, beginning of March.
Perfect. We'll get something.
If that is the time frame currently. I want to be in by March for the new number plates.
Good idea.
Which makes sense for me.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that works quite well for us actually as well, the collective.
And then you can hold an expedition. Speaking of space. Once I have my show card done.
Don't fucking tempt me like that, Owen.
Once I got my show card done, that could be like the centerpiece.
I'm about to like...
Mural.
Don't...
Other artists
Don't tell me I've got a place to put artists because it's about to go crazy.
I mean, it's 1,200 square feet.
That's pretty big.
Also, I'm not there every day because I'm still mobile.
Mate, all of these things, you're starting to get the wheels spinning.
If you work on cars or you're another valeter that needs a space to rent, it's £50 for 12 hours. Need that money. I need to pay that rent.
But yeah, so where can everybody check you out, sort of social media, etc.?
So at OB Detailing, Facebook, Instagram. My 3D prints is at OB 3D Prints, I think.
Well, make sure you go down to the link below, guys.
And if you need anything 3D printing, hit me up. I've got 2 now. Well, I have 1.5. It's on order.
1.5. 1.5. Interesting. But yeah, guys, if you want to check out Owen's OBD detailing, go down to the link below.
Detailing.
OBD.
OBD
detailing. OB detailing. Make sure you go down to the link below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, it's all in the description as well. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man, having a chat. And
anytime.
It's been
I'll be back. I liked it.
Yeah. Oh, mate, so sick. I love it when
I forget
like
that's
a podcast.
there.
Yeah. Honestly, it's amazing. Isn't it?
You.
It's so good. Like I say that to everybody when like podcasts, their first podcast. I'm like, look, the first 10 minutes, you'll be really awkward. Trust me, I know. But give it 10 minutes, just make it feel like a conversation, and you'll be fine. Yeah, because you're trying to get away from the microphone. But yeah, once you've done like 10, 15 minutes into it, you actually forget about the camera and everything. But yeah, guys, make sure you go down to the link below, check out all of the Instagrams, links, everything. And if you need cars detailing in the Southwest, you know the man to hit
I'll go anywhere. You pay me, I'll go anywhere.
Anywhere.
I like a little trip away. I'll pay for the accommodation. You just pay for my fuel.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Also, so yeah, guys, appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing some cool stuff. And yeah, guys, take care, stay safe, COVID-19 and all. But see you guys very soon.